Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, the Too Opinionated podcast could really use your help. And it's easy, it's free. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, imdb.com, named us a top 100 podcast. We came in at number 82. That's a big deal because there's 15 million podcasts and growing. So to be named to anybody's top 100 list, pretty big deal for us. And the way you can help is to go to imdb.com, look up the Too Opinionated podcast, and that's it. Just bringing our page up. That traffic really helps us out. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. All we ask is that you subscribe. It's also free, but that really helps us to attract these amazing guests that we keep bringing on the program. And that's it. 2 easy ways for you to support us, and we would really appreciate the help. Now let's get to that interview. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I've got actor, stuntman Alex Grech with me. So welcome, Alex.
Hey, Michael, thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be on the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk. And we were talking a little bit off camera about how you got started into acting. So let's kind of start that way. Tell me a little bit about what got you interested in acting, why you wanted to go into that business. That's a tough business.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So I was born and raised in Australia. Grew up in and around Melbourne, Victoria. And I actually began acting with a group in Victoria called the Victorian Youth Theatre. I began acting with them when I was about 6 years old. And as with anyone who has an older sibling, I actually began acting because my older brother joined the Victorian Youth Theatre. And I was like, well, if he's going to do it, I have to.
That's always how it works with siblings. There's a lot of jealousy.
It's the same reason I know how to play basketball.
Did he stay in it? Is he still acting?
No. So he's actually he's just graduated from law school, but I still send him he'll help me review scripts and bounce self-tapes off each other. It's fantastic. So he very much loves it. It's just not the world that he chose to make a profession out of. And to be honest, I can't really blame him for that.
He made it wisely.
Yes, yeah, exactly. He chose the slightly more reliable lawyer.
That's right. What does he think of your staying within the entertainment business?
He loves it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very funny. My dad comes from the legal world, and my mum comes from the fashion world and is a designer. So they're very much broken up in these sort of binary thinking versus creative thinking sort of schools of thought. And I think my brother and I have taken great solace in the fact that while we're both a bit of a combination of both of them, one of us is obviously more one than the other.
Well, that's normally how it works.
Exactly where that is. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I started acting at 6 and just sort of kept that up all through my adolescence, and did IB in high school in my senior 2 years of high school, did IB theater through that, which was a great experience because that course gives you a great opportunity to sort of build a lot of your own work and really kind of figure out and explore what other dramatic practices look like as opposed to the
did it have you doing short films, that type of thing in it?
I was mostly theater based. I grew up as a very, very hardcore theater lover.
Yeah.
That was my bread and butter.
Well, let me ask you this: when you started booking for TV, movies, that type of stuff, when it wasn't theater, did they have to tell you to quiet down a little bit? I've always heard theater actors, when they come over, they tend to project, and you don't need to do that on,
I mean,
something.
It's It's interesting. I have always had a very, very loud, booming voice.
Yeah.
So even as when I was very young in my acting training, like I have memories at like 10, 12 years old with acting coaches being like, we love how much you project, but like it's too much. Just need to you're at a 10, bring it down to a mellow 8 for me, okay? A mellow 8 would be lovely.
Mellow 8. Oh, I'm gonna
Yeah,
start
so
using
I
that when
exist at
uh
a
when
mellow
one of the
8 now.
kids gets upset. I'm gonna start saying that. I'm gonna need you to bring that down to a mellow 8.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So I live at the mellow 8 now. That's just my life. Uh, so
So I
in a lot of
you
my training at NYU, they did like the kind of specific vocal training where you are dialing that in, and it does kind of depend on how the scene is going to be mic'd and where the camera's going to be and what you're actually trying, like what particulars you're trying to achieve in that moment with the use of voice.
yeah.
But yes, you do have to make an adjustment, and that was a little bit of a learning curve. But that wasn't a learning curve faced when you're booking roles. I would argue that if you're having to learn that while booking roles, you're probably not booking.
You're
all
probably
that
not
many.
booking the roles. If you're
Yeah,
screaming at
yeah,
them
yeah,
when you're trying
exactly.
out, they're
That's kind of
probably
something that is required before the booking role starts.
so you talked about and I think we were talking off camera about when you came over to New York from Australia. But if I remember right, before you kind of settled more or less permanently, you backpacked through like all of Europe.
Yeah, I actually did a circuit of the globe. So I started in Australia. This was 2019. So I
Yeah.
left high school and then worked for
I mean, I think
about
we've all
six,
had that
7.
dream of
Yeah.
backpacking the globe, but you actually did it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Australians, like, we like to travel a lot. And I was fortunate enough to be in a position where I'd gotten into a university course in Australia. Didn't really know if that was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I deferred, and I, took a bit of time to go and work. And I worked as a bartender and as a laborer and as a paralegal for a while, just kind of saving up money for this trip. And then spent about 11 months traveling. I left Australia and went to India, and then went through the north of India into Nepal, and then Nepal into Europe, and through a bunch of countries in Europe, and like Eastern Europe to Southern Europe, and then out the other side, basically. And then headed off to the US and was in New York for a month, and then Canada for 2 months, and then New York for another month, and then LA, and then back to Oz.
That's
So yeah,
amazing.
during that time, I auditioned at NYU during that 2 month period in New York.
Yeah, that's amazing because it's I mean, you got that like all the wanderlust out of the way before. And most of us don't get to do that. I just think that's amazing.
Yeah, look, I'm not gonna lie. I hardly think I got all of the wanderlust out of the way. Like I love travel. I love a phrase that I often use that I think sounds a lot wordier than it kind of needs to. But I don't really know a better way of saying it, and I like
Yeah.
the way it sounds. It's like I love the eclecticism of people, like the eclecticism of
Oh, I
culture.
love
I love
that.
how varied it is. Love how diverse it is.
Yeah.
You're constantly being surprised and presented with new challenges, and meeting new people who face similar, like not quite the same experiences, but
Yeah.
face similar universal human
Right.
experiences. And because of the culture they live in, yada yada yada, X, Y, and Z reasons, they obviously present that and process it in a very different way. And as an actor, as a sort of like a child of the arts, as someone who invests themselves in writing and performing, being able to look at that sort of diversity of human expression
Yeah.
and take note of it, take mental note of it, even if you don't have, physical pen and paper, like just processing it and being aware of it, being absorbed in it, is going to leave a mark on you and impact you and kind of change the way you think about things. And if you're really
Right.
processing it, maybe change the way you do things.
Yeah, I
And
love
I think
that.
that's important for everyone.
Well, and you know, in New York, you know, it's kind of a melting pot there. So you get exposed to a ton of different diversity there. So that probably doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, well, I think interestingly, it's for like Melbourne, for example, the city I grew up in has the largest population of Greek people outside of Athens, of any city.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's very
Yeah,
interesting.
which is
Yeah.
insane. My family is, half is Italian immigrants, half is Maltese immigrants. Like it's a very, very it's an immigrant built nation. It's an immigrant built culture.
Well,
So it's
it's
incredibly
Grech is that's a Maltese
Maltese.
name. Yeah.
Yeah. There's, a few odd thousand of us. There's like 8 Maltese names. It's a very small place. Um, but yeah, I think that there's a while you do get samples of different cultures in big cities, it's a very different thing to going to that place itself.
Well, you get
And,
immersed in it when you go
yeah,
there.
spending a night in a tent or spending a night in, a small hotel in the middle of some big city there. Very, very different experience. Absolutely worth your while if there's a particular culture or place or nation or landscape that you have interest in.
Yeah. Do you speak more than one language?
I wish I did. I have tried and tried again. I think that the advent of Duolingo is something that will help me deeply in years to come. But no, I don't. I've tried, but unfortunately, that's not something that comes particularly naturally to me.
Same. I struggle with that too. Yeah.
I wish
it's weird how the brain works,
but unfortunately,
sometimes your brain, you're just good at it and you learn it. Sometimes you struggle with it, and that's with me. I've always struggled with different languages. My wife picks them up pretty easy. I've struggled.
Yeah.
I usually just try to learn a phrase that might save my life if I'm there.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's the most important part.
You need to know how to yell for help.
Yeah.
In whatever language it is.
That's fantastic. Well, if you're ever in Italy, come si dice, which is just how do you say? So that's the one that will get you through.
That's everything. Pretty good.
Just say that, and then whatever you need,
and then point.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah, okay. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So when I know you do stunt work, when did that come in? When did that piece of the puzzle kind of start?
Yeah, no, brilliant question. I've always been an incredibly physical performer, a physical person.
Athletic growing up, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I played rugby at a state level. I played water polo at a state level. I've been a rock climber.
Explain to me, you've played rugby. So explain to me
rugby union.
How do we not have the injuries playing rugby that we have playing football here in the States?
Yeah. So
because they don't wear any padding or anything.
Yeah. No. A huge part of that is, well, not a huge part. There's one element that is to do with the padding itself. And it gives you like a little bit of a false sense of security. You kind of like you feel a bit more impenetrable, so you're more likely to run into contact.
Yeah, you take risks
a bit. Yeah. You're a bit more risk prone because you feel a bit more protected. Yeah. So that's like one element. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Like I don't know how substantial that is. There's another part of it that is like the tackling and the etiquette of engagement is different. In rugby union, the aim of the game is to hit the person low and hard. To like
is that below the waist?
Yeah, below the waist, like sweep the legs out from under them. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, but the lower you tackle. Yeah. For example, I'm not a massive guy. During high school, I was probably about like 5'8", 5'9".
Oh yeah, that's my height.
Yeah, would have weighed. Oh Jesus, what is it in pounds?
I'm guessing 150 or so, 130,
Probably, yeah,
150.
probably like 155,
Yeah.
160 pounds. And I'd be going up against kids like, 17, 18-year-olds who are like 100 plus kilos, which
Yeah.
is, nearly 200 pounds.
Yeah.
Like just monsters.
Yeah.
And the idea is you just like, you wrap your arms and your shoulder around their ankles and shins, and you pray for dear life that they fall over. There's the idea of rolling into it, and you've got to place there's cheek to cheek, the old like thing that we learned when we were first learning how to tackle, where like your cheek goes to their bum cheek, and that's what will protect your head when they come crashing down.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
That's good advice
there's a
for,
lot of elements
anytime
to
you
it.
find yourself running into somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of elements to it, but I am a huge advocate of rugby union. I loved that sport and I loved what it did for me, but that definitely got me more accustomed to taking hits. I did a bit of martial arts. I dabbled in martial arts over my high school period, and
Yeah. Well, I saw
and
you
then,
did you do some kind of MMA type of styles too.
yeah, I mean, since moving to New York, it's been really hard to find a solid gym that I can, really rely
Yeah.
on, because I bounce around quite a bit. But I'd really like to get back into Krav. I've got a little bit of a history in Krav Maga and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So those are kind of my two favorites, but I've done like a little bit of boxing and Taekwondo and stuff like that.
All that stuff just adds to the toolkit for acting.
Honestly, it's all about physicality for
Yeah.
me. Like, I'm just a very physical person. I'm a very physical performer. For me, physicality is one of the best ways that you can get into character and experience that world and inhabit that body and that life. Like, the mental work is one aspect of it, but the mental work needs to be able to be expressed
Yeah.
through the body.
Yeah.
It's two halves of the same whole. So yeah, I think that's naturally how I got into stunt work, was just through acting and through being an actor who is incredibly comfortable with their own physicality. And so other
Yeah.
people
That's a
started
good
recognizing
combo.
that and then being like, "Hey, you should get into stunt work more." And I was like,
Like,
"I
all
don't know
right.
how it took me so long to get here."
Yeah, that's awesome. So the new role is in Juliet and Romeo. So
Yes.
yeah, we're used to saying Romeo and Juliet, so we're getting a little different spin on it this time.
Yep.
So tell me about it. What's Juliet and Romeo about? How are we spinning it this time?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is the title inversion.
Yeah.
You've got Juliet kind of stepping up more front and center in the story, a lot more empowered.
Is
She's
it do we get it more from her point of view?
Yes, you definitely get more of her world.
Yeah.
But I would also just like, I would add on top of that there's just more world in general.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Okay.
Shakespeare's version is very focused on the story of the two lovers.
Right.
And Shakespeare's version was actually based on, an older epic poem that was kind of recording the history of this great city state of Verona, while it was in tension with the church that was trying to kind of take over all of these
Right.
city states at the time and unite Italy as, under the church and under the Pope. So there's like a lot of other historical context happening around this
Yeah.
story. And Shakespeare was like, oh, these two families in this city of Verona, they were two kids and they fell in love. And I'm going to write a play about that. And then he very much focused in on that love story. Whereas this film, while very much paying homage to Shakespeare's classic, is building upon that historical context and really laying the groundwork for this entire expansive world where, Mercutio and Tybalt these deeper, richer characters than in versions I've seen recently or in recent past. But on the same side, we also have original characters like my character Tomasso, and Veronica, who's played by Martina Ortiz Louise, who's this brilliant Canadian singer who's
Well,
operatic.
your character's like a cousin, right, of Romeo?
Yeah, younger cousin of Romeo, adoptive younger cousin of Mercutio, obviously, and kind of in league with Benvolio and Leopold.
Okay. I had Max Parker has been on
Yes,
the
as
podcast.
Benvolio. Yes.
Yeah. I was thinking he played Benvolio.
Yeah,
He was.
he's fantastic,
Yeah.
man.
He's pretty good.
Such
He's
a
pretty good.
lovely guy too.
Yeah, he was terrific. A great singing voice. He's
Oh,
the guy.
stunning,
Yeah.
stunning.
Yeah. Did you sing before this, or did they bring you in and be like, well, it's a musical?
So like a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B.
Okay.
Yes, I have been trained to sing. I've had a lot of voice training over my 4+ years of training
Yeah.
at NYU with their performing arts course, through multiple different studios like their experimental theater wing and the Lee Strasberg Institute. But on the other side of that is that no, I'm not as clinically trained as the other voices you hear in this, like Max Parker, Martina, Nicholas Padani, Taylor Parks, Clara, Jamie. They are all incredibly technical, well-trained, brilliant vocalists. I was there doing the best I could to make sure I didn't stand out too much. And I was really happy with how it all came out, man. I
Well,
cannot tell you.
Max said you've got a very nice voice. He said you did a great job.
Thank you.
I reached
really
out to him to ask, so he said, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, no. I love my voice. I just know that it would be an insult to the level of skill that they have to compare my voice to theirs.
No, I understand. But
Yes,
you can
I
hold your own. You're not out of place.
The level that they do. I'm not releasing a single anytime soon, Michael.
Well, if you do, I hope you'll come back on the podcast. We'll talk about.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Don't hold your breath though.
Well, and it's got the cast is pretty fantastic. Rebel Wilson, Jason Isaacs. Did you get a chance to work directly with them at all?
Yeah, so Rebel plays Lady Capulet.
Yeah.
Don't know how familiar you are with the story, but the Montagues and Capulets don't have too great a relationship.
Yeah, they're not friendly at the
especially
at the beginning.
Not the best of friends. So I didn't have any.
It's very for me, I'm in West Virginia, so it's for me it'd be like Hatfield and McCoy's if you
okay.
that.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, because Rebel was a Hatfield, I didn't have a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of time to work with her one-on-one. It was incredible, though, for one of my first kind of major projects of this scale, to be able to work alongside two other Australian actors, Jamie Ward, who's originally from Perth, and Rebel. So yeah, while I didn't get a chance,
Jamie was Romeo, right?
Yes, yeah, Jamie plays our Romeo, and I worked very closely with him, and that was a fantastic relationship. And
I thought you got to double for him some.
Yeah, I got
you played double duty.
Yes, yeah. I was Tomasso and also Romeo's stunt double, which was just an incredible experience. But I did get a chance to work very, very closely with Jason Isaacs and Derek Jacobi, who were inspiring to work with. Just two incredible actors who are such an amazing example of what longevity in this industry looks like. It was a real genuine honor to share that space with them, and I got to do quite a bit of one-on-one scene work with each of them, particularly Derek, and that was like something where I don't know if I just went into a bit of like a work zone mode, because looking back on it, it's all a bit of a blur, but I've been told that there are photos. So
well, I'm sure it helps, if you're pretty young in your acting career, working with veterans that have been doing it for a while, that has to help.
Well, like Derek, I should be calling him Sir Derek Jacobi. The man has been knighted by the Queen for his commitment to Shakespearean work. Yeah, like it's kind of crazy.
I think if you've been knighted, you're probably a pretty good actor.
You're probably pretty good at that point. I think that's.
I mean, or you're related to somebody in
Oh
or
man,
something. Yeah.
yeah. So it just kind of things like that very much caught me off guard, and when I look back on that time and those experiences, I'm nothing but grateful. It was such an incredible experience, and all of my fellow cast members was such an absolute joy.
Yeah.
Such an absolute joy.
Max said Jason's a big tennis player. Did you challenge him to a game at all?
Oh God, no. God, no. That was not my game. I actually because I was doubling as Romeo's stunt double, I actually was on set just about every day. The only
I bet you were, because you were basically in two roles.
Yeah, so Clara, who plays Juliet, was the only person who was on set more than me from the principal cast. So I was out there quite a bit, doing a lot.
If not that I could act, but if I was an actor, that's exactly the type of experience I would want. I'd want to be on set as much as possible.
Yep.
Just to learn.
Yep, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That's precisely the point. Like just being there and observing, you learn so much about how the cookie gets made.
Did you have to learn to ride a horse, or did you already know how to do that?
I learned.
Well, let me ask you this, because I've always heard actors, if they get asked, "Can you ride a horse?" they always say yes, whether they can or not. So did you say yes and then have to learn, or did you know a little?
That's a very interesting point, because I had acting coaches who have told me different things. Some of them were of the yes, say that you can ride the horse, you'll learn. And some of them were like, no, always be honest, but say that you're open and willing to learn. I fudged the halfway point, and I was like, well, I have technically ridden a horse. It's just that I was bareback sitting on the back of a horse while someone led it down a beach, while I accompanied my brother and a Russian exchange student. So, like, not really, but they didn't need to know all that.
That's right. Technically, you've been on a horse.
Technically, I have been on a horse while it was moving. So, yes, I have ridden a horse. So no, that's the line I went with. But I was very, very fortunate to get to Italy a little bit early to start the rehearsal pre-production period. And within 2 days, the horse trainers had me fighting with a sword on horseback. Awesome. Within the first week, we were using a sword and a shield on horseback. We didn't need to use a sword and a shield in the movie, but they were like, try this out. It'll be a bit of fun. And I was like, this.
It might make Gladiators 3 at some point. You never know.
I need someone to give me a call. Yeah, no, that was fantastic. I loved working with the horse trainers. Yeah. I didn't expect to turn into a horse girl. I absolutely did. They're incredible creatures. It was a bit difficult. The trainers, because they were Italian, they were fantastic, but their English, not so fantastic. So, you'd be going full gallop around the ring, and then all of a sudden they'd be like, all right, go left. You're like, we need to get the arrows right, guys. We need to get the directions down. You can't say one thing and point the other way. I
could see where that might throw you off. Yeah.
Oh man, dude, and it's like so aggressively too. I'm saying to go left, and it's like, I need you to speak slower.
Or maybe don't speak at all, just point.
Oh no. I see, this is the thing. Even after discussion, we couldn't figure out which way he genuinely wanted me to go. So our end result was just using cones to sort of mark everything out. So I knew where to start and where to stop.
That's right. My wife, she made the mistake of walking behind a horse when she was young, and got kicked. And I guess it just sent her flying, sent her flying. She's fine. That was, 35 years ago, but that's my advice. do not walk behind the horse.
Yeah, I was terrified of that for the first long while, because a brilliant part of working with the horse trainers and stuff is that we'd kind of like saddle them up at the start of the day and then desaddle them and clean them off and brush them off at the end of the day and everything like that.
I like that they kind of teach you to do some of that.
It was great. It was fantastic. It was fantastic. But a big part of that is you have to like get behind them because you're brushing their tail and stuff like that. And I was very, very nervous the first few times. But
yeah, because I'm guessing if they kick, you're not going to have time to get out of the way.
No. Like, you never go directly behind them. You're kind of, you
want them to see you.
On the side. Yeah, you want them to see you, and you want to kind of keep one hand on the side so that they know that you're not completely behind them in their blind spot. If they can feel you on their side, they kind of know you're there.
Well, anybody that has driven where somebody is, just tailgating you or in your blind spot, we wish we could kick.
Oh man, it's the worst. Yeah, it's the worst feeling in the world. I wish. I once, when I first got a car, my brother and I were sharing it, and I went up to him at one point and was like, "Hey," my brother's name is Max, and I was like, "Hey, Max, we should get an absolute shit box of a car, like just the worst car we possibly can." And he was like, "Why? Why do you want to do that?" And I was like, "Well, because I've been feeling really angry lately and I don't know how to deal with it. But I think a really good idea would just be to have a car that I didn't care about."
That's right.
That I didn't need to worry about when parking or when frustrated at a red light. You could just slowly reverse back at the guy tailgating.
I didn't see you back there. You're in my blind.
Yeah, exactly. Fortunately, as I was saying earlier, my brother being the more rational of the two of us, not to.
Yeah, I think you're lucky that he was the older brother.
I think so too. I think if
you might have got him in trouble,
the story would be very different.
Do you have any desire at some point to step behind the camera?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. Having worked and performed in theater my whole life, I love writing for theater and love directing theater, and that's something I do currently at like the off Broadway and off.
No, that's really cool though. Yeah,
and love doing that. I don't think I'm yet experienced enough with the medium of film to justify making that transition. I would love to. Certainly something like directing action is something I'm much more comfortable with, because it's a lot more choreography based than it is intentional cinematography and cinema storytelling. It's just a different world. But yes, I would one day really love to do that. I just think that I have a lot to learn before I get to that stage.
Yeah.
And
that makes perfect sense.
With my life as an actor, I think that I have a lot to learn in that realm before I can apply that to directing proficiently.
Well, yeah, and that makes perfect sense. It's a progression, and you have to kind of learn what you're doing in one role, and then not necessarily, but it helps to step into the other role, and especially coming from the acting side. If you then move on to directing, you understand what the actors are going through, and that has to help.
Well, yeah, I think I'm someone who I very much pride myself on my ability to compartmentalize, and I think when I'm acting, there's a stage of reading the script and developing it where you are making certain directorial choices. You just understand that ultimately you're making those choices, in the workshop process so that you can discover something about the character. Because those directorial choices will lead you to some new thing about the character, some new piece of information about their expression or experience or thought process, what have you. So being able to kind of compartmentalize those two sections and be like, okay, cool, this is what is required as the actor. here is all the pieces, and then the director's going to tell you what pieces they need in what moments.
That's right.
And then you're going to try and mix them together to make whatever you think that they need. The directorial part of that is just doing all of that, in my mind, is doing all of that for every character, for every scene, for every, communication, for every moment, and then putting all of that on paper.
Yeah, it's complicated job.
That's the leap that I think I'm yet to make, or yet to feel comfortable making.
That's a big leap.
Written a few scripts like that, but nothing that I'm quite ready to start working on.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So the next one would be, is there a genre that you haven't done that you would like to do?
Oh God, yeah. I would really like to get more involved with sci-fi and sci-fi action. That's something that contributed.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, it was such a huge part of my creative youth. Like I'm a big cosmic horror fan.
Oh, okay. So you like a Cthulhu type of fan, maybe?
I love a lot of that. I mean, there's a lot to be said about the Lovecraftian world. Like Guillermo del Toro, for example. A lot of storytelling is like very cosmic horror-esque. There was actually I heard some whisperings, I don't know if it's true or not, that he was working on a Madness in the Mountains.
Oh yeah, I've heard that too. I hope he does it at some point.
I hope he does it. Yeah. Like that, to me, extremely exciting. I also have a massive passion for reinvigorating classical stories, which is part of what drew me to Juliet and Romeo in the first place. So Odyssey, what Christopher Nolan's doing, that's always been a dream of mine, to have some new version of the Odyssey. I think it's an incredible story.
I know, I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, I can't wait.
How have, with your physicality, how have you not got involved in a superhero movie yet?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Time will tell.
It has to happen at some point, at least on the stunt side.
Gotcha. Oh, gotcha.
I think you could handle both. They just need to give you a character, and they wouldn't need a double. You just double yourself.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. That's the dream. That's the dream. It's hard to say though. I'm a little bit of a comic book nerd deep down. My cousin used to take me to All Star Comics in Melbourne, and I'd spend an afternoon sitting and reading through there.
I owned a couple comic shops in the 90s. That's when I was in college. That's how I put myself through school. Yeah. So I'm a big fan. Yeah. I've missed it ever since I closed them. Yeah. I closed it. Marvel went bankrupt in 96, and I had just gotten married, and we were having a child, or maybe we just had a child, and I was like, it's over. I got to get out because I can't support them. And then, of course, Marvel came back better than ever.
Yeah. Well, I also something I'd really love to see. I know that Marvel and DC have this whole, for lack of a better phrase, a little bit of a pissing contest going on in the film TV space. I would love to see more Image Comics.
Oh, me too.
Products.
Yeah.
Stuff like Invincible and Spawn, the old Todd McFarlane Spawn series from the late 1990s. Amazing, really dark, real dark animation.
They made a series of that, or a movie, but it never went anywhere, and it never
went anywhere.
Now with the special effects they have now, he totally should. I think he is. I think there's a remake coming.
Yep. So things like that, very much in the realm of I absolutely would immediately hop behind something like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'll give you a quick Todd McFarlane story. This is a quick one. So when I had the comic stores, I did a lot of conventions. I worked a lot of conventions, and I went to this one, and the main guest was John Byrne, who at the time was the artist on X-Men. All right. Yeah. So pretty popular back. This was early 90s. So he, pretty popular back then. And the line was out the door. I mean, you'd have been waiting all day to get to him. But next to him, they had this unknown artist that he wasn't a writer yet. He was just an artist. And he was at this table just by himself. And he was working for DC. He's doing the art for this comic called Infinity Inc., which is like the sons and daughters of the Justice Society. But nobody knew who he was. But I knew who he was. And I had come with my stack of Infinity Inc. to sign. And I went up there. Well, I ended up spending the entire day with him, just sitting next to him, because nobody ever came up there. So I got to talk to him for hours and stuff. And then right after that, he got hired to do Spider-Man, and he's Todd McFarlane.
That's hefty. His Spider-Man is so iconic as well.
Yeah, it is.
His drawing, his artistry of it. Yeah. No, what an incredible artist. I love a lot of his characters and a lot of his work.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But yeah, that's absolutely the work I'd love to be getting involved in. Yeah. I love that story, man. God damn.
I know. It's always a fun one for me, because I'm like, I knew. Well, conventions were different back then because there was no Hollywood side of it. It was only artists and writers of comics.
Yep. Yeah.
I used to run into Stan Lee all the time, just walking around. Nobody was bothering him, or everybody knew who he was, but nobody bothered him. He'd say hi, or you'd talk to him for a minute. He'd sign autographs, but you didn't have to pay for them. And then, now it's so much bigger, and in a lot of ways it's a ton better. But I kind of miss those little, the little ones that it was just the writers and the artists. I kind of miss those days.
No, that's fair. It's I think part of, I've had this conversation with a few people, like it's similar to streaming platforms and everything like that.
Yeah.
It used to be that you had a really committed community of viewers. And that was kind of the name of the game, was like trying to slightly grow your niche.
That's right.
But always keeping consistent to your niche, keeping true to your niche. And now the name of the game is just sort of as diverse as is physically possible. As many people as you possibly can for, such and such a standard price. And that comes with certain pros and cons.
Well, that's right. In some ways, it's so much better. Some ways, I think we've lost a little bit.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Well, Alex, thank you for taking a little bit of time. So the new movie, which is it's out now, right?
Yeah, it came out May 9th.
That's what I thought. It's been
AMC theaters, Juliet and Romeo.
That's right, and it comes out next month, I think, like in England.
UK.
Some of those.
Yeah, UK, Europe release next month. June 11th is UK.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's really exciting. So
very exciting, man.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you're working on that we can kind of keep an eye out for?
At the moment, I mean, honestly, please go support the film. Like, that's
for sure
the biggest part. I think what I'd like to say is, it's because this is an independent film, theatrical release support really, really counts. I, just kind of want to put a bit of a message out there, because the independent film industry is a struggling beast. It's filled with hardworking, committed, loving, passionate artists who are just trying to get their material out there. And, for the most part, it's taken years and years of teeth grinding, back-breaking.
It's kind of like podcasts. It's hard to get your podcast above the noise.
To distributors.
That's right.
But once it's out there, people just kind of go, oh, well, they did the hard work. Now the hard work is getting people to go and actually show up. So yeah, please, if you have the moment and the will, go give it a go. Show
I saw AMC is cutting their prices in half on Wednesdays. AMC.
That's great. Yeah, that's great from them. I love that. I absolutely love
I do too, because they're trying to get people back into going to the theaters. I personally, nothing's better than seeing a movie at a theater for myself. I mean, it's very convenient to watch at home, but the best experience is
It's not the same. Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah, agree. So, okay. So last thing, Alex, before I let you go, is where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, so Instagram, you can find me on Facebook. Instagram is definitely the best place, at Alex Grech 22, because apparently there's a lot of Alex Grech out there.
Well, it's like Michael Wall. There's a ton of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And IMDb, obviously, but I'll also have a website out very, very soon.
I think this is my suggestion for one of us. We need to do a podcast where we're only interviewing people that have the same name.
Oh my, that's a recipe for disaster, because at one point or another you're going to say the name and get some universal answer of yes. Yeah. I don't know. That might be one to put on the top shelf for later, Michael.
Maybe a panel interview where you've got, like 10 Michael Walls.
You're all interviewing each other at the same time.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. It's discover which is the actual host.
Yeah.
Like a match me game.
I think that will work swimmingly. You should try it.
Well, Alex, thank you for coming on the show. And you have to come back when the next big thing comes out. You got to come back out and tell us about it.
That sounds fantastic. This has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, Michael.
You're so welcome. Okay, hold on one second. Alex Grech, hope you enjoyed that interview. He's a talented guy, and I love the fact that he's physical. He's when I was prepping for the interview, he's just working out all the time. Just one of those guys that loves the physicality, being in the gym. There's periods in my life where I have been like that, and it's a great place to be but it's hard to stay there. So good for Alex to put so much effort into being that kind of physical presence. Just terrific, and I bet his voice is fantastic. I'll let you know, because we're going to go see it. We're going to do a little date night to my wife and I. I'll let you know if Alex can sing. I suspect that he can. To me, it doesn't. There's just some of those people out there that it doesn't matter what they're doing. They're just good at it. Just naturally talented people, and I think Alex fits that bill. So the movie is Juliet and Romeo. It's out now. If you enjoyed this interview, or if you're a fan of the film, Max Parker has also been on the show, so definitely check that interview out as well. It's if it's not popped up in the corner right now, at some point as I'm finishing up, Max's interview will pop up. So just click on that and take a listen or a watch. If you're finding us for the first time, I'm thrilled that you're here. Love to have your support. It's easy to do. It's free. We never ask for money. Our website is meistercon.com. You can find almost 1,000 episodes on there, audio and video versions. So check that out, meistercon.com. If we're doing something in studio, or if we're going on location, covering a convention, anything we have going on, be on the website, meistercon.com. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Please subscribe. It's free, but those subscriptions really help us out. So if you go to YouTube, MeisterCon Pod, please subscribe. I'll mention this because I've had a few questions on that. Last year I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and I'm still learning to live with it, get used to the medicine, all of that stuff. But for the most part, it's going really well. But I've had some interesting side effects since Parkinson's came along. One of those is that I seem to be more creative than I was previously. So for me, the Parkinson's is affecting the right side of my brain, which affects the left side of my body. The left side of the brain is the creative side. I don't know if that, I'm struggling on this side, so it's switching to that side, been a little more creative. The other interesting one is, I lost, my hair receded in my late 30s. I was kind of lucky. My dad lost his at 20. My brother lost his in his early 20s. Mine receded in kind of my late 30s. But in the last year, it's starting to grow in just a little bit. So I got curious about it, and I'm like, I'm going to let it grow and just see what, it doesn't look like it's going to give me a full coverage, but it's definitely more hair than I had the last time I tried to grow it out, which was probably 10 years ago or so. So I'm doing that experience. So if you're seeing that and you're like, when did he get hair? Because usually I'm on here and there's, I've got it shaved up pretty good. That's the reason. I'll probably go back to the shaving part at some point once I determine if it's going to actually come in or not. But that's why I look a little bit different. I'm just trying it out. See where it goes. I'm not really expecting it to do anything, but it's already coming in a little better than what I was expecting. So I don't know. I guess that's a victory. Thank you guys so much. I'll quit wandering off topic. Until next time. Bye, everybody.